Welcome back to another day of Chinese art, and today we are going to work on a simplified contemporary style of Chinese brush painting from what we learned about the artist Chen Shiquan. This is his fish bowl, and then we're going to try to do an animal or object. Here is his animal, and I got these from the National Palace Museum in Taiwan. So we're going to try to paint these onto postcard size, which I've got my example here, and then add the word love to it. So I have my practice mat out, and if you've got yours, you can get them from Walmart or Amazon, or you can just use your sketch paper. I like to use this now because I don't have to worry about wasting paper and I can redo. So I'm just going to take a bamboo brush and just dip it in water. And I've got my samples out to look at. And these are available in the Google Drive that I shared, so if you wanted to print them out and look at them, or you can set up your computer in front of you and look at the example that way. So the first thing, and this gridded paper helps too to kind of map out the composition. You notice that it's really, the composition is heavy on the right side with space on the left side. So I'm going to start a little bit, kind of 2/3 on the way on the left here, so that I can start my composition here and just practice my big fish bowl. And you want to try to do it in one big brush mark. So that's why practicing really helps. So I'm just going to start here and try to keep a thin mark. And so then I've got the one brush mark for that main part of the fishbowl. Then I'm going to start at the top, and I want to go with a thin line, so I'm going to hold my brush up and then use the bottom of my palm here to steady myself, and try to use the tip of that brush to do the bottom and then meet it on the other end. Now I didn't quite get that, so I probably want to get some more practice in there. Then the other fish bowl, I'm going to start up here and do the same thing. So make sure that that fish bowl touches it, and then it's going to go off the edge of the paper, and then do the top and the lip of the fish bowl like that. So I'm not that happy with the shape, so that's something I want to keep working on. But I'm going to let this disappear, and while that's doing that, I'm going to work on the base of the fish bowl. And this time I want to use the width of my bristles here on the brush to lay it down kind of flat and go horizontal, and then lift my brush off as I'm going. So I place my brush down and then slowly lift it off. Then I'm going to do the same thing, but this time up and down, starting on the right. And I'm going to use like half of the bristles this time, and then slowly lift my brush off to get that faded effect. Then the center piece is going to be a little more narrow, and it's going to start wider, and then it's going to taper off. Then the last mark, I'm going to lay my brush down again, and this time use about 1/3 of the brush and taper off. Now I didn't get quite the part of the leg, so I'm just going to lay my brush down right over it again to fill that in a little bit more. So again, you can just keep working and practicing with that. Now this one, it looks a little bit different. It doesn't have to look exactly like the example, but I am going to first start off the tip of my brush and then lay it down this time. And then I'm going to do the center and have it taper off. And then the same thing with the left leg and have it taper off. And again, it's not quite as straight as I would like, so that's something I can practice with. But just have fun with it and be free with it. But really make sure that you're practicing first before you do the final postcard. Now I'm going to work on the fish, and I'm just going to, because I'm using my practice pad, it's going to be all show up as black. But when you do it on your final paper, you can use the watercolors, and I'll show you how to do that. But for now, we're going to use the same brush, and I'm going to put this right here so hopefully you can see it. I'm going to start with the fish head and body. I'm going to lay my brush down right at the edge here and just move my brush until it tapers off to more kind of a triangle shape. And then for the tail feather, this is where it's going to mimic a bamboo leaf shape that we're going to practice later. And I want to mimic the shape of my brush. So if you notice, the brush has that kind of leaf shape. And so I basically want to kind of lay my brush down to that shape. So I'm going to start at the base of that triangle here and lay my brush down, have it flatten out, and then taper off so that the very tip is thinner. And then I want a much thinner tail at the top, so I'm going to lay my brush down, thicken it out a little, and then taper it off gently. Okay, and then I can even go back and taper it a little more if I wanted to. And you really want to try not to go back and fill in, but if you make a mistake, I can make that fish body a little bit wider. But you want to try to make it look like it's all one brush stroke as best as you can, and then you could go in and kind of fill in those dots for the eyes. Okay, now I'm going to do my other fish. It's a smaller fish, so I'm going to lay my brush down and do a smaller stroke this time, but still taper that body off. And I've got a gap, so I'm just going to slightly fill that in. And then I'm going to do the fish tail on the bottom, taper it, and then the other fish tail. And then I'm going to just finish that body off and then add the eyes. So again, don't be afraid if you make a mistake, like you can see I did. I had to fill it in a little bit, or you can just start on another piece of paper and practice some more. So you can see now it's starting to disappear already, so I can practice some more. And while that's disappearing, I'm going to practice writing my word for love. So remember when we practiced that last time, if you need to review that, you can watch the previous video. So I'm just going to write it in this corner right here. So remember, it's 10 strokes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. I want that last stroke to taper off. So now I've got my word love. And then my fishbowl is already disappearing, so I can work on practicing that again. So I'm going to put my practice pad away. I'm going to switch to my sketch paper, and I'm going to change brushes, get my paper towel out, have all your supplies ready. I've got my watercolor, black watercolor that's already out and ready, so I'm just going to use that. You may need to fill in more black or mix it up a little bit more. Make sure it's a good consistency. And then I'm going to do my fishbowl again on my practice sketch paper. So you want to make sure that you try to use the tip of the brush so you create a thin line for the shape of the bowl. So here I'm going to go with my palm, resting down on the paper. I want to keep it rounded. And now I'm going to do the bottom lip and then the top lip. Okay, now I'm going to go in and do the other one. So it's touching here, goes off the page, bottom lip and top lip. And you can do this with the India ink if you feel comfortable after practicing with the watercolor if you want to get a richer black. Now I'm going to get a little bit more color. And you can notice the stand there is the lighter, so if you want something to be lighter, just water down your paint some more. So I'm going to start down here for the base. And you want to do it kind of quickly and with confidence. So I'm still a little shaky here. And that's why if you practice more, the more confident you will be in your marks. So just for practice sake, I'm going to call that good. And I'm going to wash my brush out because now I want to add the color. So remember, we're using minimal color here, so I just want to find a red watercolor, or if you have orange, I'm using vermilion red here. And I'm just going to do a little drop on my plate here. I'm just using a plastic plate. And with my bamboo brush, make sure it's washed. I'm going to add a little bit of water. This watercolor, so I want to water it down. And because I don't want it to be a really rich red, I'm going to add a little more water. Okay, so now I'm going to start with my fish. I need a little bit more color here, and I'm just going to dab in some of that color here. I want it a little bit more round, and now I'm going to do the tail. Okay, then with the other fish, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Maybe get some more color here. I'll probably have a little more color than I like, and it'll dry a little different too. And then I can fill in the body a little more if I want it to be a little bit fatter. And I'm going to wash my brush, and I'm going to go back either to the watercolor or the India ink and get my black on the tip of my brush for the eyes, so that I can dot the eyes. And you want to really wait till it's dry to do this, or it's all going to run together with the orange there. So, but I'm going to just try to do it without having it blend, just for time's sake. Okay, so then I've got my, so this is what it looks like. And then if you want to use your fine tip Sharpie to write the word love, you can. That might be easier to control than the brush. So there's my simple fishbowl painting. Then I can do it on the postcard paper. So you should have that in your supply box. And for this style, you don't need a pencil or sketch it in first. We're just going to go right with the ink. And if you want to do the India ink this time, you can try that. Or, I'm sorry, the Sumi ink. So you can use India ink too, but I think we're using Sumi here. So I'm going to start with my fishbowl. You can see it's a much richer black than the watercolor. And then the next one. And then I want to water it down because I want the stand to be a little bit lighter. And then I'm going to wash my brush, and I'm going to close my Sumi ink and switch to my watercolor. Make sure that you're washing the brush completely so there's no black left on it. You may have to change your water out because my water's getting pretty black here. Mine's not completely as clean as I would like, but I'm just going to go ahead and go for it and do my fish. So I'm going to get that onto the red-orange color onto my brush, and I'm going to start from right to left with my fish shape, and then the tail, and then on the other side. And try not to run into the black India ink or it's going to blob. And you can even cheat here and use your fine tip Sharpie to put the eyes in if you want. And then I can write in my word, love. And there you have a very simple fishbowl scene, and you can send it to a friend. And then we're going to do another one that you can send to somebody in this class. The next thing that we're going to do, we're going to do a couple more things. One is the less is more pets. And if you don't have a pet, you could do an object like we looked at some of those examples from Chen Shi Quan, You could do a vase or a cup, whatever you have at home. I'm going to do, these are some sketches I did of my pet Mochi on the right and then my friend's Pug on the left. These were done with pencil and pen and then also with my stylus. I want to show you how to do one with the positive shape and then one I filled in with the negative shape. So I'm going to go back to my practice pad and switch to the brush with just water. And I'm just going to do on the left side, I'm going to start with the eyes of my pet. Because then that kind of determines where everything else is. So I've got the eyes. I'm going to fill that in quickly. So you don't have to do a lot of details. It can be just a rough outline so that really you want to capture the expression of your pet. So I'm going to add some eyelashes here. And then some of the fur around the nose, the mouth, some of the hair. I've got a furry dog here, so then the ears on each side. And there's the basic head for Mochi. Then the one on the right, and I could fill in some more of the ears and put some more fur marks in there. For the one on the right though, I want to show you how you could do the negative shape. So I'm going to outline the head first, put the eyes in. So this is when she's kind of sleepy, so her eyes aren't as open. There's the nose and the mouth. Put some fur lines in, the ear going off on the side here. And I'm just going to roughly brush in the body. Say the tail is right here. We've got a paw. And then I am going to fill in the rest with just large brush strokes, so that you can see the outline of the dog here. So see how I'm just doing that kind of quickly? And you can just kind of make it a rectangular shape. It doesn't have to be finished, so it can be kind of blotchy. But now this is the negative. I'm just painting in the negative shape, so the white of the paper is going to show the shape of the pet. So those two approaches that you can take. And then you can also transfer that, do the same thing, work on the sketch paper and then put it on the postcard paper or the card paper. So the last thing I want to show you is how to use our toothpicks to create a plum blossom tree. And I've got some, you can do this on your postcard paper as well, the watercolor paper. You can make a card with it. So these are fun crafts that you can send to your friends or to your grandma. And we're going to do this with a toothpick. So I got a toothpick out already that I already used. And I'm going to use my India ink, or Sumi ink. You can also use your watercolor. Dip it in. And then I'm just going to start at the bottom. And you may have to re-dip and load a lot of paint on there. And you can see now the paint is loaded on. Once you've got a blob of paint on there, then you can kind of use the toothpick to scratch out the shape of the tree trunk. And you may have to keep dipping, re-dipping. And that's okay if it's not even, because those blotches are kind of the nodes of the tree. You can also use the bottom of the toothpick to get a thicker mark at the bottom there. And then I'm just going to draw in the branches with my toothpick. You may have to just keep re-dipping. Okay, I'm getting kind of messy here, but I'm going to use both sides of the toothpick. And then I can fill in some of those lighter areas. So just have fun with it. If you get frustrated, don't worry about it. Do something that you find relaxing and fun. So if you want to go back to the pets or do another object, don't do something that's going to just make you frustrated. You can mix with the brush or with the Sharpie. If you want to use the Sharpie to fill in some lines, you can do that. Then once you've got the basic trunk, I'm going to go back to my brush and do the plum blossoms. And we're going to do plum blossoms next time, so I'll go more into those instructions. But I just have some quick samples here some practices. If you want to do plum blossoms, I'm not going to do the full view of the plum blossom on the tree. We just want to do like the side view of the blossom before it's in full bloom. So this would be called like a peppercorn or crab eye. So just doing the side view of the blossom, so you can either see just one blossom or two or three like this. And since it's so small, it really doesn't matter so much about the detail. I'm just going to go back to that kind of light red color that I was using earlier. And if you want to, you can even use markers. I did that on this one. And just fill in some of those petal shapes. And really, they can just be, because it's so small, they're just going to be little blobs. So you can just fill in as many as you want. Then once you've done that, you can either use your toothpick or your Sharpie to make those 3 dots on the top. That's where the part of the plum blossom, I think it's the stamen. And so I'm just going to put 3 dots at the top of some of those blossoms. Hey, I'm sorry that video got cut off, but I want to show you what the final pieces look like. So here is the plum blossom with the toothpick, and you can see hopefully where those dots are on top of the plum blossom. And then here is the finished postcard of the fish bowls. Don't forget to clean and wash your brushes, change your water, and get ready for the next lesson. See you then.